Elena Vasquez stood in the center of the massive chamber, feeling smaller than she had ever felt in her life. The ceiling stretched so high above her that she could barely see it through the strange purple mist that filled the upper levels. Around her, in a perfect circle, sat the representatives of 47 alien species. Some looked almost human. Others were so strange that Elena's brain struggled to understand what she was seeing. The chamber belonged to the Galactic Council, the group that had ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years. Elena was Earth's ambassador, and she had been called here to face judgment. Speaker Thelanor rose from his seat. He was tall, maybe 12 feet high, and his body looked like it was made of living crystal. Light moved through him in slow waves, shifting from blue to purple to green. When he spoke, his voice seemed to come from everywhere at once. Ambassador Vasquez of Earth, he began. You stand accused of multiple violations of the Probationary Species Treaty. Elena kept her face calm, but her heart was racing. She had known this was coming. Earth had been breaking the Council's rules for years now. They had to. The rules were designed to keep humanity weak. First, Thelanor continued, your species has established mining operations in the region you call the Kuiper Belt. This was not authorized. Second, you have constructed 47 military vessels beyond your approved quota. Third, you have made diplomatic contact with 17 unaligned species without Council permission. A creature that looked like a floating jellyfish with too many eyes made a sound like wind through pipes. Elena's translator implant converted it to words. The humans are aggressive, dangerous, they should be contained. Contained? Elena said, unable to stop herself. We've been trapped in our own star system for 50 years. You won't let us expand. You won't let us trade freely. You tax us for the privilege of existing, and when we try to talk to other species, you call it a violation. You are a young species, Thelanor said. His voice was patient, like a teacher explaining something to a slow child. You do not understand the delicate balance of galactic civilization. We have maintained peace for 10,000 years. Peace requires order. Order requires rules, and who makes these rules? Elena asked. You do. The Council. The strong telling the weak how to live. A rumble of disapproval rolled through the chamber. A reptilian creature with red scales and too many teeth leaned forward. Careful, human. Your world is very small and very fragile. Thelanor raised one crystalline hand and the chamber fell silent. Ambassador Vasquez, the Council has been patient with your species. We welcomed you into galactic society despite your violent history. We gave you the gift of faster-than-light travel. We asked only that you follow our guidance as you mature. Guidance? Elena felt anger rising in her chest. You've crippled us. You limit our fleet so we can't defend ourselves. You control our trade so we can't grow our economy. You isolate us so we can't make allies. This isn't guidance. This is a cage. It is protection, Thelanor said. From yourselves as much as from others. But you have shown that you are not willing to accept this protection. Therefore, the Council has reached a decision. Elena's blood ran cold. This was it. The real reason she had been summoned. Earth must comply with the following terms immediately, Thelanor said. You will surrender 60% of your military fleet to Council control. You will allow Council observers permanent stations on Earth, Mars, and your lunar colonies. You will pay reparations for your violations in the amount of 14 trillion credits. Elena did the math in her head. 14 trillion credits was roughly equal to everything Earth produced in 100 years. It would bankrupt humanity, destroy them without firing a single shot, and if we refuse? Elena asked, though she already knew the answer. Then the Council will have no choice but to enforce compliance. Thelanor gestured to a holographic display that appeared in the center of the chamber. It showed a massive fleet of ships, hundreds of them, all painted in the white and gold colors of the Council. The enforcement armada is already en route to your system. They will arrive in 72 hours. Elena stared at the display. Each of those ships was more advanced than anything Earth had. Their weapons could burn a city from orbit. Their shields could withstand anything humanity could throw at them. 500 ships against Earth's 200. It wouldn't even be a fair fight. The Council is generous, Thelanor said. We give you 72 hours to consult with your government. Return here with your answer. Accept our terms and remain a part of galactic civilization. Refuse and face the consequences. Elena looked around the chamber at all those alien faces. Some looked satisfied. Others looked bored. A few almost looked sympathetic, but none of them spoke up. None of them defended Earth. They had all bent the knee to the council, and now they expected humanity to do the same. "I will take your message to my government," Elena said slowly, "but I want you all to remember something. You think you know humanity because you've read our history. You've seen our wars, our violence, our struggles, and you think that makes us primitive, dangerous, something to be controlled." She took a step forward. "But you don't understand what you're looking at. You see violence and think it's a weakness. You're wrong. Every species in this chamber evolved on worlds that were kind to you. Your climates were stable. Your predators were manageable. Your paths to civilization were smooth. Earth tried to kill us," Elena continued. "Ice ages that should have wiped us out. Plagues that killed half our population. Predators that hunted us. Volcanoes. Earthquakes. Droughts. Floods. And we survived it all. We didn't just survive. We conquered our world, and we conquered space. And we did it without any help from you." "Your point, Ambassador?" Thelanor asked. "My point is that you've been comfortable for so long that you've forgotten what it means to fight. Really fight. Fight because if you don't win, everyone you love dies. Earth remembers. We've never had the luxury of forgetting." Elena turned and walked toward the exit. "I'll deliver your ultimatum. But don't mistake our restraint for weakness. Don't mistake our desire for peace as fear. And don't be surprised if we don't react the way you expect." The doors opened before her and she walked out, leaving stunned silence behind her. On her ship, Elena immediately opened a secure channel to Earth. Admiral Chen's face appeared on the screen. He looked tired. The past weeks had aged him. "They gave us an ultimatum," Elena said. "Surrender most of our fleet, accept occupation and bankrupt ourselves. Or fight. And the enforcement armada? 500 ships." 72 hours out, Chen was quiet for a long moment. Then he smiled. It wasn't a happy smile. It was the smile of a man who had been expecting bad news and was almost relieved to finally hear it. "Then I guess it's time to show them what Project Phoenix can do," he said. "James," Elena said softly, "we're really doing this? Going to war with the entire Galactic Council?" "No," Chen said. "We're going to war with 500 ships. And we're going to win. Then we'll see if the Council still wants to fight." Elena nodded slowly. "I'll be home in 36 hours. "Good," Chen said. "By then we'll be ready. The Council thinks they're dealing with primitives. Let's show them what humanity can really do when we're backed into a corner." The screen went dark. Elena sat alone in her cabin, looking out at the stars. Somewhere out there, 500 warships were coming to crush her world, and Earth was going to fight back. She just hoped they had enough surprises ready to make a difference. The command center beneath Denver was 3 miles underground, carved from solid rock and shielded against every kind of scanning technology the Council had. Admiral James Chen stood at the central display, watching representatives from every major Earth nation file into the room. Presidents, prime ministers, generals, and scientists, the people who would decide humanity's fate. "Let's begin," Chen said. "You've all seen Ambassador Vasquez's report. The Council wants us to surrender. They're sending 500 ships to make sure we comply. We have 72 hours. "It's suicide to fight them," said President Morrison of the North American Union. "Their technology is centuries ahead of ours. One of their ships could take out 10 of ours." "In a fair fight, yes," Chen agreed. "Which is why we're not going to fight fair." He gestured to the woman standing beside him. Dr. Sarah Okafor looked like someone's grandmother, with gray hair and a kind face. But she was the smartest person Chen had ever met. She ran Project Phoenix, Earth's most secret program. "For the past 30 years," Dr. Okafor began, "we've been preparing for this day. We knew the Council would eventually push too far. We knew we'd have to push back, so we've been building things, secret things." A holographic display lit up the center of the room, showing detailed technical diagrams. "The Council thinks they know what we're capable of because they gave us FTL technology. What they don't know is that we've been reverse engineering everything we could get our hands on. Stolen tech, black market purchases, wreckage from old Council battles. We've studied it all. And we found their weaknesses," she continued. "The Council has been at peace for 10,000 years. They haven't fought a real war in longer than human civilization has existed. Their tactics are old. Their doctrine is rigid. They expect enemies to fight them head-on, fleet against fleet, like some kind of medieval army." General Liu from the Asian Federation leaned forward. "What are you saying? That we can actually win this?" I'm saying we have a chance, Dr. Okafor said. If we're smart, if we're ruthless, and if we're willing to do things the Council would never expect. She changed the display. First, quantum entanglement communication. The Council uses radio-based systems because they're fast and reliable, but they can be jammed. Intercepted. Our QEC systems are instantaneous and impossible to block. We can coordinate our entire fleet in real time and they won't be able to stop us. Second, plasma web mines. These aren't designed to destroy ships. They're designed to disable them. When they detonate, they create an electromagnetic field that fries navigational systems, weapons targeting, and shield harmonics. A ship caught in one becomes a floating piece of metal. Third, adaptive AI. The Council uses VI systems, virtual intelligence that follows programmed responses. We've gone further. Our combat AI learns and evolves during battle. Every tactic the enemy uses, our systems analyze and counter. The longer the fight goes, the better we get. And fourth, she said, and now she was smiling, distributed command structure. The Council's fleets rely on flagships and central command. Destroy the flagship and the fleet loses coordination. Our ships don't work that way. Every captain is trained to operate independently. Every ship is a node in a network. You can't cut off the head because there is no head. There are 200 heads all thinking and adapting together. The room was silent as people absorbed what they were hearing. Then President Morrison spoke. You're talking about asymmetric warfare. Guerrilla tactics in space. Exactly, Chen said. The Council expects us to line up our fleet and trade shots with them until we lose. Instead, we're going to hit them from every angle. Ambushes, false retreats, feints and misdirection. We're going to make them fight our kind of war, not theirs. But even with all this, said Chancellor Weber from the European Union, we're still outnumbered more than 2-1. How do we overcome that? Dr. Okafor pulled up another display. This one showed the Sol system, with hundreds of small dots scattered throughout. We've been seeding the system with mines, weapon platforms, and sensor networks for years. Jupiter's moons, Saturn's rings, the asteroid belt, the Kuiper belt. The Council is sailing into what amounts to a giant trap. They think they're entering an undefended system. They're wrong. We've also been training for this, Chen added. Every pilot, every gunner, every engineer. We've run simulations of this exact scenario thousands of times. The Council crews are professionals, but they've never faced a determined enemy. Most of them have never seen real combat. Our people have been preparing for war their entire careers. Prime Minister Tanaka from Japan raised her hand. What about civilian casualties? The Council won't hesitate to target our cities if we resist. We've been evacuating non-essential personnel from Earth for the past 6 months, Chen said. Quietly, small numbers at a time so it wouldn't attract attention. Most of our civilian population is now dispersed throughout the outer colonies. If the Council wants to bomb Earth, they'll be hitting military targets and empty buildings. You've been planning this for months, Morrison said slowly. You knew this was coming. We knew the Council would push us eventually, Chen admitted. The only question was when. They've done this to dozens of other species. Impose impossible conditions. Force them to surrender. Some species resist and get crushed. Most just give in. But we studied the ones who resisted. We learned from their mistakes. Dr. Okafor stepped forward again. There's one more thing you need to understand. This isn't just about winning a battle. It's about sending a message to the entire galaxy. The Council maintains power through fear. They make everyone believe they're invincible. If we can beat them even once, that illusion shatters. Other species will start asking questions, start resisting. The Council's whole system could collapse. So we're not just fighting for Earth, General Liu said. We're fighting for every species the Council has bullied and oppressed. Yes, Chen said. Which is why we can't just fight. We have to win in a way that the whole galaxy sees. We have to embarrass them, humiliate them, prove that the Council's power is built on sand. The room erupted in discussion. Some people were excited. Others were terrified. A few were both. Chen let them talk for several minutes before calling for order. We need a decision, he said. Do we surrender? Give up our sovereignty, our freedom, our future? Or do we fight? Risk everything for a chance to stay free? The vote wasn't unanimous. Some representatives argued for surrender, for saving lives, for living to fight another day. But most understood that surrender wasn't really surrender. It was slow death. The Council would bleed Earth dry and leave humanity as servants in their own system. In the end, the vote was clear. 83% in favor of resistance. Then we fight, Chen said. Send the order to all fleets. Begin Phase 1 of Operation Phoenix. We have 60 hours before the enforcement armada arrives. Let's make sure we're ready to give them a welcome they'll never forget. As the meeting broke up, Dr. Okafor approached Chen. James, I need to be honest with you. Everything I said in there is true. We have advanced technology, good tactics, well-trained people, but we're still gambling. If we lose, Earth loses everything. Chen nodded. I know, Sarah, but if we don't fight now, we lose everything anyway. Just slower. At least this way we go down swinging. And maybe, just maybe, we'll land a punch they never see coming. I hope you're right, she said. So do I, Chen replied. Because in 60 hours we're going to find out just how tough humanity really is. Throughout the Sol system, orders went out. Ships moved into position. Mines were activated. Weapons were loaded. Pilots climbed into their cockpits and ran final checks. Engineers made last-minute adjustments to systems that had never been tested in real combat. And on Mars, in the hidden facilities where Project Phoenix had been born, the final weapons were prepared. The secret weapons that nobody, not even the Council, knew about. Earth was ready. The Council was coming, and the galaxy was about to learn that you don't corner a predator unless you're absolutely sure you can survive what happens next. Grand Admiral Korvax stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Celestial Dominion, and watched the Sol system appear on his displays. 500 ships followed behind him in perfect formation. It was the largest fleet he had commanded in 50 years, and he expected this to be the easiest victory. Korvax was old by the standards of his species. His scales had faded from bright crimson to a dull red, and his movements were slower than in his youth. But his mind was still sharp. He had conquered 12 worlds before his people joined the Council. He had commanded fleets that brought entire civilizations to their knees. These humans would be no different. Status report, he ordered. Entering outer system boundary now, Grand Admiral, his second-in-command reported. Sensors show minimal ship activity. Detecting approximately 200 human vessels scattered throughout the system. No defensive formations detected. Korvax's lip curled, revealing rows of sharp teeth. They're running scared, probably hoping we'll accept their surrender without a fight. Should we hail them, sir? No, let them sweat for a few hours. I want them to feel the weight of 500 Council warships sitting in their system. Fear makes compliance easier. But as the hours passed, something began to bother Korvax. The human ships weren't running. They weren't forming defensive lines. They were just waiting, scattered across the system like pieces on a game board, but with no obvious pattern. Grand Admiral, the sensor officer called out. I'm detecting strange readings throughout the system. Thousands of small objects. They're not ships, but they're giving off low-level energy signatures. Define small objects, Korvax demanded. Unknown, sir. They're everywhere. In orbit around planets, floating in the asteroid belt, scattered through the Kuiper belt. Some are moving, others are stationary. Korvax felt the first stirring of unease. Could they be mines? Possibly, sir, but the signatures don't match any known mine technology. Before Korvax could respond, a transmission came through on all frequencies. Ambassador Vasquez's face appeared on every screen in the fleet. She looked calm. Too calm. Grand Admiral Korvax, she began. Welcome to the Sol system. I'm required to inform you that you are in violation of Earth's sovereign space. You have one opportunity to withdraw peacefully. If you do not, we will consider your presence an act of war. Laughter rippled through the bridge. The sensor officer actually chuckled. The idea that Earth could threaten them was absurd, but Korvax didn't laugh. He had been a warrior too long to dismiss any enemy, even one that seemed weak. This is Grand Admiral Korvax of the Council Enforcement Armada. You are in violation of Council law. Surrender immediately and we will show mercy. Resist and you will be pacified by force. Vasquez smiled. It wasn't a friendly smile. The Galactic Council has mistaken humanity's restraint for weakness. You've forgotten that we climbed from the mud of our world through countless wars, through ice ages and plagues, through darkness and fire. You've never had to truly fight for survival. She leaned closer to the camera. We're about to remind you what that means. The transmission cut off. All ships advance formation, Korvax ordered. Battle speed. Prepare to engage any human vessels that don't surrender. The enforcement armada moved forward, 500 ships in a massive wall formation. It was the standard Council battle doctrine, used successfully for thousands of years. Overwhelming force. Unbreakable lines. The enemy sees your strength and loses hope. Except the human ships still weren't running. Grand Admiral, the sensor officer shouted. Multiple contacts. Ships emerging from behind the lunar surface. Korvax watched as a dozen human vessels appeared, seemingly from nowhere. They weren't in formation. They were scattered, moving at high speed, taking irregular paths. Weapons range in 30 seconds, the tactical officer reported. All ships, prepare to fire, Korvax ordered. Target the lead vessels. But before the Council ships could fire, something strange happened. The space around the fleet suddenly lit up with thousands of points of light. Those mysterious objects scattered throughout the system were activating. Mines, someone screamed, but they weren't exploding. Instead, they were releasing streams of plasma that connected to each other, forming a web of energy. Ships on the outer edge of the formation found themselves caught in the web. Their shields flickered. Their weapons went offline. Their navigation systems crashed. What's happening? Korvax demanded. Electromagnetic disruption, the engineering officer reported. It's frying our systems. Shields are down across 40 ships. The human vessels struck like wolves attacking a wounded prey. They didn't target the disabled ships. They ignored them completely and went straight for the inner formation, where the shields were still up. But they weren't fighting like Council ships fought. They weren't trading broadsides. They were darting in and out, firing and retreating, never staying in one place long enough to be targeted. More human ships appeared. From behind asteroids, from inside Saturn's rings, from the gas clouds of Jupiter's upper atmosphere, they had been hiding everywhere, waiting. Return fire, Korvax ordered. All batteries. The Council ships opened fire, but the humans were too fast. Their ships were smaller, more maneuverable, and their pilots were flying like madmen, taking risks that no Council pilot would dream of attempting. Worse, every time the Council adapted to a human tactic, the humans changed tactics. It was as if they could read minds. Later, Korvax would learn about the adaptive AI systems, but in the moment it seemed like magic. More contacts, the sensor officer reported. Behind us! Korvax spun to see his rear formations under attack. How had the humans gotten behind them? His formations were supposed to be impenetrable. The answer was simple but devastating. The humans weren't fighting like a fleet. They were fighting like independent raiders, each ship making its own decisions, finding its own targets, coordinating through systems the Council couldn't jam. Focus fire on their flagship, Korvax ordered. If we kill their command ship, the rest will fall apart. The Celestial Dominion and 20 nearby ships concentrated their fire on what appeared to be the human fleet's lead vessel, the Indomitable. Their combined firepower was overwhelming. The Indomitable's shields failed. Its hull was breached, and within minutes it was drifting wreckage. Korvax waited for the human fleet to lose coordination. That's what always happened when you killed the flagship. But nothing changed. The human ships kept fighting with the same efficiency, the same coordination, as if losing their flagship meant nothing. Impossible, Korvax whispered. Grand Admiral, his second called out. We're taking heavy casualties. 70 ships disabled, 23 destroyed, and they're releasing boarding pods. Boarding pods? It was true. Small pods were attaching themselves to disabled Council ships. Human soldiers were boarding them. But they weren't killing the crews. They were just taking control of the ships and shutting them down completely. The battle raged for 6 hours. It was the longest 6 hours of Korvax's life. Every time he thought he had figured out the human tactics, they changed. Every time he tried to rally his forces, another wave of attacks hit from an unexpected direction. And the mines. Those terrible mines, they kept activating in new patterns, creating webs of disruption that pulled his ships apart. By the 4th hour, his perfect formation had disintegrated into dozens of small groups, each fighting desperately just to survive. Grand Admiral, his second said quietly, we need to withdraw. We're being torn apart, Korvax wanted to argue, wanted to fight on. But he was a warrior, not a fool. He could recognize defeat. All ships, he said, his voice heavy. Prepare to. But before he could give the order to retreat, every system on the Celestial Dominion went dark. Emergency lights flickered on. The bridge crew stared at their dead consoles in shock. Ambassador Vasquez's voice came through on the emergency channel. Grand Admiral Korvax, your ship is disabled. 147 of your vessels are destroyed. 308 are disabled. The remaining 45 are surrounded and have no chance of escape. You may surrender now, she continued, or we can continue this fight. Your choice. Korvax looked around his darkened bridge, at his crew's shocked faces, at the tactical display showing the shattered remains of his fleet. He had been a warrior for 200 years. He had won countless battles, and in 6 hours these humans had destroyed everything he thought he knew about war. We surrender, he said. Throughout the system, Council ships powered down their weapons. Human medical vessels immediately launched to rescue survivors from damaged ships. Human engineers began emergency repairs on life support systems. They were efficient, professional, even kind, and every moment of it was being broadcast to the entire galaxy. Korvax sat in his command chair and realized something terrible. The Council had sent him to crush a primitive species. Instead, he had delivered them the greatest propaganda victory in galactic history. Earth hadn't just won a battle. They had humiliated the Council's enforcement armada. And everyone would see it. Ambassador Vasquez's face appeared on his screen one more time. We didn't want this war, Grand Admiral, but we will finish it if we must. Take that message back to your Council. Korvax said nothing. What could he say? The humans had proven something today, something the Council had forgotten over 10,000 years of easy dominance. Never corner a predator unless you're absolutely certain. The Council chamber on Zenthara Prime erupted in chaos. Representatives were shouting over each other, their voices creating a cacophony of anger, fear, and disbelief. Speaker Thelanor tried to maintain order, but even his crystalline body seemed to dim with stress. This is a disaster, shrieked the Volrani representative, a bird-like creature with iridescent feathers. The humans destroyed an enforcement armada. An entire armada! They didn't destroy it, corrected the Kelrath delegate, a gray-skinned humanoid with large eyes. They disabled it, and then they provided medical aid to the survivors. They broadcast every moment of mercy to the entire galaxy. That makes it worse. The Volrani screeched. They made us look weak and cruel. They showed everyone that they can defeat us while still maintaining moral superiority. The Thrin representative, an insectoid being with multiple arms, clicked its mandibles thoughtfully. I have been reviewing the battle recordings. The humans used tactics we have not seen in thousands of years. Guerrilla warfare, asymmetric combat, distributed command structures. It was impressive. Impressive! The reptilian Vrax delegate, cousin to Grand Admiral Korvax, slammed his clawed hand on his console. They humiliated us. We must respond with overwhelming force. Send 10 armadas, 20. Burn their world to ash, and prove to the galaxy that we are barbarians. Thelanor's voice cut through the noise. The humans are broadcasting everything. Every transmission. Every action. The whole galaxy is watching. If we escalate to genocide, we lose whatever moral authority we have left. A small, almost mouse-like being from the Pequin species raised a tentative paw. Speaker Thelanor, if I may. My intelligence service has been monitoring galactic communications. The reaction to Earth's victory is concerning. Define concerning, Thelanor said. 17 junior species have already sent messages of congratulation to Earth. 43 species have submitted formal requests to renegotiate their treaties with the Council, and there are reports of protests on 12 Council member worlds. The chamber fell silent. Protests? Someone whispered. Citizens questioning why the Council maintains such strict control over younger species. Why we allow no real representation. Why our peace requires oppression. The Pekin representative pulled up data streams. Social media across 50 worlds is lighting up with discussion. Debates, arguments. Many are asking if the Council has become the very tyranny it claims to prevent. This is sedition. The Volrani screamed. We must crack down immediately. Crack down on half the galaxy? Thelanor asked. And prove the humans' point for them? Before anyone could respond, the chamber doors opened. A tall, elegant being entered. She was Vryn, a species known for their vast intelligence networks and information gathering. Councillor Cyrix was one of the oldest members of the Council and rarely spoke. When she did, people listened. Esteemed colleagues, Cyrix began, her voice like wind chimes. I have information you need to hear. My people have been conducting investigations into Council operations over the past 1,000 years. Thelanor's crystalline form seemed to tense. What kind of investigations? The kind that reveal uncomfortable truths. Cyrix activated a holographic display. For the past millennium, the Council has maintained peace through economic strangulation, military intimidation, and systematic oppression of developing species. We have seized resources, blocked trade routes, prevented technological advancement, all under the banner of maintaining order. That is protocol, the Volrani representative said defensively. Standard procedure for managing primitive species. Is it? Cyrix pulled up document after document. The Kelrath were denied fusion technology for 2 centuries, keeping them dependent on Council energy supplies. The Pequin were forbidden from establishing colonies beyond their home system, limiting their growth. The Halics were forced to sign treaties that gave the Council 60% of their mineral wealth. She paused, letting the data speak. 47 species currently exist under probationary status. 22 have been in that status for over 500 years. The Council doesn't guide younger species. We exploit them. How dare you? The Vrax delegate roared. The Council has maintained peace for 10,000 years. Has it? The Kelrath representative stood suddenly. His voice was shaking, but not with fear. With anger. Or has the Council simply been the biggest bully in the galaxy? The one who beats everyone else into submission and calls it peace?
Sit down, Kelrath,
the Volrani demanded. No. The Kelrath delegate stood straighter. Earth did in 6 hours what my people have dreamed of for 5 centuries. They stood up to you. They proved you're not invincible. They showed the galaxy that your power is built on fear, and fear only works until someone is brave enough to call your bluff. You forget yourself, the Vrax delegate snarled. Do I? Or am I finally remembering what it means to have dignity? The Kelrath looked around the chamber. Earth treated their defeated enemies with mercy. They provided medical care. They returned prisoners unharmed. They fought with honor. When has the Council ever shown that kind of compassion? Other representatives began murmuring. Some angry, but others thoughtful, uncomfortable. This is ridiculous, the Volrani said. One lucky victory and the primitive species think they can lecture us? It wasn't luck. Admiral Korvax's voice came through the communication system. He had been summoned to give his report remotely, still recovering in the medical facilities at Sol. I am one of the most experienced fleet commanders in Council history. I had 500 ships, superior technology, every advantage, and the humans tore us apart like we were training dummies. The chamber fell silent. They didn't beat us because they got lucky, Korvax continued. They beat us because they're better warriors than we are, because they've spent their entire history fighting and surviving, while we've spent 10,000 years sitting on our thrones pretending we're invincible. We're not. We're soft, complacent, and they proved it. So what do you suggest, Admiral? Thelaner asked. Unconditional surrender? I suggest we negotiate, Korvax said. Before this gets worse. Because if we send more ships, the humans will destroy them too, and every time they win, more species will join them. We're standing on the edge of a galactic rebellion, and we started it by being too arrogant to see that humanity deserved respect, not oppression. The chamber erupted again, but this time the tone was different. Fear mixed with anger, uncertainty mixed with pride. They were no longer sure of themselves. Cyrix spoke again. Earth has sent a message, not a demand, not a threat, an invitation to negotiate. They propose reforms to the Council structure, equal representation for all species, democratic processes, an end to the probationary system. Never, the Volrani shrieked. But the Pequin representative raised his paw again. My people formally support Earth's proposal. We will not accept Council authority until reforms are made. The Kelrath delegate nodded. The Kelrath stand with the Pequin, and with Earth. One by one, other representatives began speaking. Small species, junior species, the ones who had been living under Council control for centuries. 14 of them pledged support for reform. This is treason, the Vrax delegate roared. No, Thelaner said quietly. This is the consequence of our own actions. We pushed too hard. We forgot that power without legitimacy is just tyranny wearing a nice uniform. He looked around the chamber, at the anger, the fear, the uncertainty. We can send more ships, start a war that might tear the galaxy apart. Or we can talk, find a compromise, build something better than what we have. You would surrender to these primitives? The Volrani demanded. I would prevent a galactic civil war, Thelaner replied, and perhaps in the process create a council that actually deserves the loyalty of its members. The vote was called. It was close. Many representatives wanted to fight, to maintain control, but more were afraid. Afraid of war. Afraid of losing. Afraid that maybe, just maybe, the humans were right. The decision was made. Thelanor would invite Ambassador Vasquez back to Zenthara Prime. Not as a defendant, as a negotiator. As the chamber emptied, Syrinx approached Thelanor. "This is the end of the old council, you know." "I know," he replied. "But perhaps it's the beginning of something better." "Or the beginning of chaos," she said. "Maybe. But if the choice is between chaos and tyranny, perhaps chaos is worth the risk." Across the galaxy, species watched and waited, some with hope, some with fear. Earth had struck a blow not just against the Council, but against 10,000 years of established order. And now everyone would see if that order could survive the truth being revealed. Ambassador Elena Vasquez walked through the corridors of Zenthara Prime again, but everything felt different this time. The same purple mist hung in the air. The same massive architecture surrounded her. But she wasn't walking to judgment anymore. She was walking to negotiation. And behind her, representatives from 14 other species followed. The Free Worlds Coalition, they called themselves. Species who had decided that Earth's courage had given them permission to find their own. The council chamber looked the same, but the mood was completely different. Gone was the arrogance, the certainty, the casual contempt. Now there was tension, uncertainty, and in some faces, actual fear. Speaker Thelanor stood as Elena entered. "Ambassador Vasquez, thank you for returning." "Thank you for the invitation," Elena replied. "Though I notice you didn't send an armada this time." A few representatives shifted uncomfortably. The Vrax delegate glared but said nothing. "Please sit," Thelanor said, gesturing to seats that had been arranged in the center of the chamber. "Not below the council. Level with them. We have much to discuss." Elena sat, and the representatives from the Free Worlds Coalition joined her. The Kelrath delegate, whose name was Rennick, sat on her right. The small Pequin representative, Tivik, sat on her left. Others arranged themselves in a loose semicircle. A unified front. "Let me be clear about why we're here," Elena began. "Earth didn't fight the Enforcement Armada because we wanted war. We fought because you gave us no choice. You demanded we surrender our sovereignty. We refused. That's the entire story. You could have complied," the Volrani representative said. "Avoided all this bloodshed." "Compliance with injustice is not peace," Elena replied. "It's just slow death. You were strangling us. Strangling all of us." She gestured to the species around her. "We just had the weapons and the will to say no. And now you want to dictate terms to us?" The Vrax delegate growled. "No," Elena said. "We want to negotiate a better system. One that works for everyone, not just the powerful." Thelanor raised a hand for silence. "Ambassador, you've submitted a proposal for council reform. Equal representation, democratic processes, dissolution of the probationary system. These are substantial changes." "They're necessary changes," Rennick interjected. "The current system is unsustainable. Earth proved that. How many other species are watching right now, wondering if they could do the same? How long before the council faces not one rebellion but 20, 50? You threaten us?" The Vrax delegate snarled. "We state reality," Tivik squeaked, his small voice amplified by his translator. "My people have been conducting secret polls across multiple worlds. 73% of galactic citizens support council reform. 41% believe the council has become tyrannical. These aren't threats, they're facts." The chamber fell into uncomfortable silence. Finally, Councillor Syrinx spoke. "I have reviewed Earth's proposal in detail. It is not unreasonable. It proposes a restructured council, where all species have representation proportional to their population and economic output, where decisions require majority approval from both the senior and junior species councils, where military action requires a 2/3 vote, where trade and technological advancement are based on merit, not arbitrary restrictions." "It would end council control," the Volrani protested. "It would end council tyranny," Syrinx corrected. "There is a difference." Elena leaned forward. "We're not asking you to give up power. We're asking you to share it, to build a system based on cooperation rather than domination. Isn't that what the council was supposed to be in the first place?" Thelanor was quiet for a long moment. His crystalline form seemed to pulse with inner light as he considered. 10,000 years ago, the council was formed to prevent war. The founding species had just survived a conflict that nearly destroyed half the galaxy. We vowed never to let that happen again, so we created rules, structure, order. But somewhere along the way, he continued, we forgot why we created those rules. We became so focused on maintaining order that we lost sight of justice. We became the thing we were trying to prevent. You admit this? The Vrax delegate asked, shocked. I admit that Earth has forced us to look in a mirror, Thelanor said, and I don't like what I see. A council that maintains peace through fear is not keeping the peace. It's just postponing the war. He turned to Elena. Your proposal has merit, but implementation will be difficult. Many species benefit from the current system. They won't give up their advantages easily. Then let them explain to their citizens why they want to maintain a system built on exploitation, Elena said, because that's what this is. We're broadcasting these negotiations to the entire galaxy. Everyone is watching. Everyone is listening. The Volrani representative made a strangled sound. You're broadcasting this? Complete transparency, Elena said. Every species in the galaxy deserves to see how their leaders handle this moment. Do you choose reform and progress? Or do you choose to maintain control through force? This is blackmail, the Vrax delegate roared. This is accountability, Rennick corrected, something the Council hasn't faced in a very long time. For the next 6 hours they negotiated. Every point was debated. Every concern was addressed. The senior Council species tried to water down the reforms. The Free Worlds Coalition pushed back. Elena and Thelanor worked together to find compromises. Slowly, a new structure emerged. The Galactic Federation, they would call it. 2 councils, one for senior species, one for junior species. All major decisions required approval from both. Trade would be free. Technology would be shared based on demonstrated capability, not arbitrary restrictions. Military forces would remain under local control, with a joint Federation defense force for mutual protection. The probationary system would be abolished. Any species with FTL capability would be granted full membership. No more second-class citizens, and what about enforcement? The Volrani asked. What if species refuse to follow Federation law? Then the Federation responds, Elena said, but with the approval of both councils. No more enforcement armadas sent by decree. Military action becomes a last resort, not a first response. And if a member attacks another member, collective defense. Admiral Chen's voice came through the communication system. He had joined the negotiations remotely from Earth. Any attack on one member is an attack on all. But we respond proportionally. We defend, not conquer. We disable, not destroy. We treat even our enemies with the dignity we'd want for ourselves. The human way, Thelanor said softly. The right way, Chen replied, or at least a better way than what existed before. Finally, after hours of debate, they had a framework. It wasn't perfect. Both sides had made compromises, but it was fair, or at least fairer than what had come before. Thelanor called for a vote. All those in favor of dissolving the Galactic Council and forming the Galactic Federation under the proposed charter. The vote wasn't unanimous. 7 species voted against. The Vrax, the Volrani, 5 others who benefited too much from the old system, but 39 voted in favor, including Thelanor himself. The chamber erupted in noise. Some celebrating, some angry, all shocked that it had actually happened. Elena stood and walked to the center of the chamber. Every screen in the galaxy showed her face. Billions of beings across hundreds of worlds watched and waited for her words. Today, she began, we've proven something important. We've proven that change is possible, that tyranny can be opposed, that a better future can be built even when it seems impossible. Earth didn't fight the Council because we wanted to dominate anyone. We fought because we refused to be dominated, and in fighting for our freedom, we've helped create freedom for others. She looked around the chamber. This new Federation won't be perfect. We'll make mistakes. We'll have disagreements, but we'll face them together as equals, not as masters and servants. Some of you are afraid of what comes next. That's natural. Change is scary. But I promise you this, the alternative was worse. The old system was crumbling. Earth just pushed it over the edge before it could collapse on all of us. So let's build something better. Not a council that rules through fear, but a federation that leads through cooperation. Not an empire that demands obedience, but a community that earns respect. Our species learned through blood and fire that peace is not the absence of conflict. It's the courage to face conflict with honor. We didn't strike back to conquer. We struck back to prove that no species, no matter how powerful, has the right to dominate another. The galaxy is stronger when every voice is heard, when every species has a chance to reach their potential, when we work together rather than against each other. She paused, looking at the camera. To every species watching this, your voice matters. Your freedom matters. Your future matters. Never let anyone tell you different. And if they try to take your freedom, remember Earth, remember that courage can win, that the right cause can triumph, that even the smallest species can change the galaxy if they're brave enough to try. The chamber fell silent. Then slowly beings began standing. First the Free Worlds Coalition, then some of the council members. Even a few who had voted against the reforms. A standing ovation that lasted for minutes. When it finally ended, Elena walked over to Thelanor. They stood face to face, human and alien, former enemies who had become reluctant allies.